Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the supportive viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald in Nauvoo, in a city that is steeped in history. And there's going to be an addition to this city which tells even more history, biblical history. And believe it or not, within about 3 weeks of the time I'm standing here, this old home is going to be a museum called the Flood Museum. Robert Wright, it's a lot of work to do in 3 weeks. I mean, you got your hands full, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Tell us about this old house and what's significant about it with Nauvoo.
Well, this was for many years, as many as 50 years, was a funeral home. It was the Lamport Funeral Home. So a lot of local citizens have spent their sad times here in the funeral home. But it had really fallen into disrepair. And over about the last 20 years, it had become used less and less and less. To the point where 1 or 2 funerals a year, and then about 3 years ago, we're not even sure there was another funeral held here after that. And so it was really declining. The company was purchased by another funeral home, and the building was put up for sale. It was in pretty poor shape. It wasn't really a home that any family could live in, and so it was not too attractive for most people, but for us it was perfect because it's
well. Now it looks like they're doing a lot of work on it. Now it looks like they're installing maybe some guttering. You've got a new. You can see that you've got a new roof.
Yeah, we had to put a new roof on.
On the left side of the house, as we look at it, that's where most of the damage was.
Yeah, that had a membrane roof that had like 5 or 6 layers put on it over time of rubber and shingles and everything else, and still leaked. It leaked primarily the area where the upper part of the house met the addition, and it had leaked so long and so much that all of the joists, the roof joists, were rotted away for about the first 10, 15 feet.
You had to replace all that.
And then it had gone down in and had taken out all the flooring too. That's my first experience here inside. I fell through the floor, so I said, okay, the floor's got to go.
Yeah.
So we had to put in all new wood for the roof joists, floor joists, all new subfloor.
Now, it looks to me like, okay, they're putting guttering on, but it looks like you've got stained glass windows in there, or those replicas of stained glass?
Those are replicas of stained glass from cathedrals and churches all over the world. We wanted to bring some of the flavor of the museum outside. So even without going in the museum, even just walking around, you have a museum experience on the exterior of the museum. And they are all biblical stories.
Okay. Now, as we walk around the corner of the building here, let me ask you a couple questions about this, because it's interesting. You've chosen to call this the Flood Museum.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, we want to tell the story of the flood as it occurs in the Bible. We believe the Bible is a historic record, and there's a lot of geological evidence that shows that the flood actually happened. Unfortunately, it isn't always interpreted with the Bible as an option in the description. But more and more geologists are realizing that some of their ideas about millions of years and little rivers cutting big canyons probably doesn't cut it. It was actually lots of water in short periods of time that created a lot of these things that we see. Yeah. And so with the Flood Museum, it's great because we can actually have a lot of fun. We call it a family adventure because kids can come through. What kid doesn't love dinosaurs? And so they can see how the fossils were actually made as a result of the flood, and get to experience the flood and all the things that happened with it.
Speaking of dinosaurs, we've got one awaiting us down here.
Yes.
Now, we're at the point where you're just getting a lot of things moved in.
Right.
Your multimedia fellas come later on this week, and they're going to put in a lot of your... And they're going to put in a lot of your media work. And this guy, I could tell it's a dinosaur, but he's looking a little confined here.
Yeah, he's wrapped up. He was wrapped for shipping. Actually sent 1 full semi-trailer, believe it or not, for this guy.
No
he looked tiny inside that thing, but he has stayed wrapped up because we have to, when we unwrap him, we have to put a coat of polyurethane on him. And before we can do that, we are having dirt delivered for a berm, a 3-foot high berm that he'll actually sit up above everybody walking in, just this way, looking out towards Mulholland. And with all the rain, they can't deliver mud, so they had to let it dry out a little bit.
Well, it's good that he stays covered
Yeah,
up
so he
too,
stayed
because-
all nice and safe.
Yeah, that would be a little rough on the weather. The weather hasn't been kind.
Well, we decided that since we're going to have to lift him into place with straps, that having the protective coating on him would protect him.
You were describing a wooden bell to me.
Yes.
That was used, what, on the ark?
No, the Eastern tradition is that Noah was told to create a wooden bell. He was told to make it out of boxwood, but to make it roughly 4.5 feet wide by 2 1/4 feet tall, if a cubit was 18 inches, and to strike it with a mallet of boxwood, and that he was to use that to call the people to work on the ark, as well as to call the animals when it was time to board the ark. And so he had this samantron in the Eastern tradition, and so we're duplicating that here. It will hang down with a wooden mallet here that people can strike. And
they can do it at their will
they can
anytime
do
they
it,
want
yep,
to.
do it, and
so they would hear what Noah heard.
They'd hear something like what Noah heard, yeah.
Okay. I can't imagine what a wooden bell would sound like.
Well, let's see if we can get, if I can find
Do you have a mallet anywhere? You want me to hold it?
So then we'll
I'll hold it.
Okay. You can see it
Yeah,
you get a little
it
bit
resonates too. You could hear that
Yeah.
across, especially across water.
Yes, exactly. So that's what he used, and it's, of course, it'll sound even a little more when it's just hanging on the chains and not being.
It'll reverberate.
Yeah, it'll reverberate a little better.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's.
You had to build. Did you have to build this onto the?
Oh yes.
Yeah. This was not part of the original structure.
No, it just had regular siding on it, and again, trying to suggest the idea of the ark running into the building. We people, some of the locals, they were like shaking their heads because never seen somebody wrap a building in 2x12s. And in fact, the comment was, wasn't that kind of expensive? It actually, when you look at the cost of siding, we just waited until we found 2x12s at a good price and grabbed up a bunch, and they're screwed into the building and sitting on ledger strips. And then we put the pins in them to give the idea of it being construction like they would have had.
And this will be the entrance to the museum, and it looks sort of like a gangway to a ship, of course.
Exactly, yeah. 36-foot long ramp to get on to the ark.
There's a lot of kid in you too, isn't there, Robert?
There is.
Well, let's just walk on up here.
And then your welcome party.
Yep.
And actually there's 5 of them, 5 sets that will sit on the outside of the ark like they're coming up the ark as well. So, I mean, on the ramp, they sit on the other side of the ramp. So.
Okay, Robert, we've just entered the ark.
Yes, yeah.
And you got a team here that's, I can see there's a big sign that they're getting ready to install. This would be one of the first things you see when you come in.
Yes, yeah. This is both the entry and the ticket desk and what we call common ground. So this is the backdrop for the common ground exhibit, which will have artifacts from all over the world and all different cultures through time that show the presence of the flood story as a part of all of these cultures.
As we'll see, a lot of the exhibit material that you have is here, and some of it's upstairs. A lot of it hasn't been delivered yet because you're not ready for it yet.
Right,
You're still trying to get the walls and the lighting and everything up.
Yep.
Okay, so this would be the first area you'd see, but you've got it planned so that this is very specific technically as to how you want the visitor to feel when they walk in.
Yeah, we have exhibit spaces and then we have experience spaces. And so when they leave that common ground exhibit, they now are in the flood experience. And the experience is 6 rooms, and each of them tells a specific part of the story and an environment that kind of helps to support the telling of the story. So there's video, there is lighting, there is audio, there are set pieces. So in here they would see dinosaurs and prehistoric plants and other types of animals that would all suggest the world before the flood. And so the video then explains the difference in that world from Adam's world and even from the world that we live in today.
So there will be video going on in here at the same time?
Yes, they'll actually watch about
Okay.
a 7-minute, 8-minute video.
And in some of these cases, they're actually surrounded by video in some of these rooms,
Exactly,
aren't they?
yeah, yep.
Okay, so now we've entered another room.
Yep, so you leave the world before the flood and you come into the ark. And so here they get a chance to, just witness both the video support and everything that shows the ark, how the ark was built and where the information, the instructions came from, but also, again, set pieces and design that reinforce that and help them to feel like they're actually in the ark.
Some of the animals, of course, are segregated into their own little,
their own little
box
cages,
there, their
and,
own cage, and that's the way the rest of this is going to look, I assume,
right.
when you get it.
Yeah, some of it will be with purpose-built stuff like this, and a lot of it is with these kind of set pieces, so banner, vinyl material on the walls, then augmented with set pieces inside each of the exhibits.
Now, we talked a little bit about, well, I'll tell you, we'll talk about the media as we go, as we get into a room where you're actually using it. But, okay, now we just entered another room.
This is the flood. So in this room, they will actually experience the flood. We have a 24-inch sphere, which actually lets them see the flood happening as the waters go over the earth and everything. But then they're in a room that is actually inundated with water as well.
And again, they'll get that sensation from the video that's playing.
From the video and the lighting and audio effects, yes. Yeah, so there'll be lightning and like rain's coming and the whole bit. So.
Now, you didn't design this all yourself, did you? I mean, all the media? You have some help with that.
I've had help, yes, definitely, yeah.
But you've built things before, haven't you?
Yes, we have, and done a lot of the video work, yeah.
Okay, now we just entered another room.
Yep, and now we're in the world after the flood. So we learn about, as the animals come off the ark, how one of the amazing qualities of DNA that we all have is adaptability. And the fact that all the information is already there. And while there are other theories that try to explain the diversity, they don't account for the addition of new information. And what we've learned about DNA is it has the ability to allow organisms to be adaptable. And so we see that after the flood, that the animals adapt very quickly to the different environments that they're in.
And here's a fella here that's had to do a lot of adapting. You don't get a neck like that without adapting.
That's true.
Where's he going to be?
This will actually be on the back part, the ark part of the building, and he is sticking his head up out of the top, so you'll see him from the outside as you walk up to the ark.
Oh,
and so
okay.
he's welcoming everybody and starting to get some fresh air.
Okay, so you actually see his
some doors,
some doors,
stuck his head up.
Yeah. Okay, and so he'll be a curiosity that people say, we got to go in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Between that and that dinosaur out there, they're going to wonder what's going on there.
Yeah. Okay. So now with the next, they would go upstairs.
Then they go upstairs. Okay. Yep. And here they'll see our mastodon. We have a mastodon skull and tusks, as well as a 4-foot globe that spins and shows them the ice age and how the ice coming and covering the northern and southern parts of the globe was a result of the heating of the water that was caused by the flood.
Now, all of these items have not been delivered yet. Is that why? Are you storing them somewhere?
Oh, we're storing them somewhere. They're here. Yeah, we have all those pieces.
Okay. Like
in fact, we have the majority of the pieces we have, and these boxes over here are all the computer and video equipment. But we have a lot of the pieces here. But as we're painting ceilings and everything, you can't have those artifacts in your space.
You have to have them out of the way.
Yep.
Okay, good. But and you don't need all that storage here. Once you get it in place, all you
exactly.
need is, okay.
Then it just runs. Yeah. So
all right.
Actually,
let's go upstairs.
Okay.
After you. Okay, Robert. Floor 2. We've reached floor 2. We've gone from after the flood and the DNA changes in the animals and human beings.
Right.
Up to what?
Now this is the rainbow room. This is where we talk about the science of light and how rainbows are made, since of course that was the big promise that was given to Noah, and the sign that was given to him after the flood was the rainbow. And so
for those who don't know that story, what is the rainbow story?
Well, after the flood, God then said that he would put a sign, a token in the heavens as a sign of his covenant. And so he gave Noah and all of his posterity, the rainbow, as a reminder that he would never again destroy all flesh, and that the time would come when he'd return. So this is it's a very significant element of the story for us, because it's every time we see it, it's then a new event. And that's what we talk about here, is the fact that every time you see a rainbow, it is unique and different, and the rainbow that you see is different than the rainbow that I see because of my physical location. And they both exhibit all the properties of light, and how light has a dual nature, as both a particle and as a wave, where we as individuals, we have both physical bodies and spiritual bodies, so or spirits. So, yeah.
Okay, now this room is going to really, this is going to be transformed when your video technology gets here, because you've already have a mural painted here.
Right.
But this mural is not the same as it was before. And
Exactly.
It's going to be different when the media comes to it.
Right, yeah. The artist that painted this, she actually painted it with the people in the painting, the original painting. And in making the mural, we took the people back out because the projection system will actually put the people back in the painting, but moving. So instead of it just being a static painting, this will be a living painting.
And what is the painting? What does it depict?
It's called The Return of the City of Enoch, and so it depicts the fact that the time will come when the Savior returns, and that all of those living and those dead then are reunited. So we get to then see all those people that we love and miss, and so it's this great reunion moment.
Okay,
and so that's the great promise.
And then this is if for people who are history buffs and love artifacts, these are replicas of very important books. This is the Bible throughout
some
the
replicas
centuries.
and some originals. Yes. Yeah. So we've got all of the significant major
What's on the far
publications. The publication, that one on the left, that's an original, over 200 years old. That's a 1792 Brown self-interpreting Bible. When the new government, a new country was formed, we didn't have Bibles printed here. They were using Bibles from England, and of course everybody wanted to have an American Bible. And so as part of that, this Bible was printed in 1792, and it was printed in New York, and it was done on a subscription basis. So the printers would actually ask who wants one if we print these. George Washington was the first one who actually
subscribed. Is that right?
Subscribed.
So you put in your order before they print them?
Yes, and so towards the back of it on the page, it has George Washington's
That's
name in
priceless.
there.
That's an original?
That's an original.
That's priceless.
Yes, it's a great book.
Gutenberg back
And
to
then the Gutenberg,
1455. Obviously, that's a replica.
That's a replica. Yeah.
The green one up there.
That's the Robert Aitken
Bible.
That's the first Bible printed in the United States. Sometimes called the Congressional Bible, because the Congress was persuaded that it wasn't a good idea that we be printing and distributing Bibles in America that had a testimonial to King James in them. And so they printed this in 1782. It's the first Bible printed in America.
Yeah, King James was a very sensitive topic at the time. And then you go through further.
To the Lincoln Bible for Illinois. That's the 1853 Lincoln Bible. Some people aren't aware. When Lincoln showed up for his inauguration, his household goods hadn't arrived in Washington. So he didn't have his Bible. So a clerk from the Supreme Court ran to his office and grabbed the Bible, and that was the Bible that Abraham Lincoln was sworn in with. And of course, then it was retained, and President Obama chose to use that to be sworn in, and President Trump chose to use that Bible to be sworn in.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, these are, I assume these are replicas of
These are
some of the
replicas
very
of-
first
Right.
Gospels, I guess.
Those are some of the oldest New Testament fragments that there are. So we tried to have the earliest fragments from each of the books of the New Testament, and primarily focus on the Gospels. But we do have P46, the letters of Paul. The oldest fragment known is P52, and that's John's Gospel.
That's this one up here.
Right. And so that one is the oldest fragment, and it's within, it's about 2nd century AD, so it's within a very short time after the events that are recorded there occurred that we actually have records. And so when people talk about, is the Bible consistent and is it trustworthy, the records all say that it is.
And you're not short on history here. You actually have some of these are honest to goodness relics, aren't they?
Yes, yep. These are all archaeological pieces that show the reality, again, of the people and the events of the Bible. So everything from Goliath to Pontius Pilate to Isaiah and Hezekiah, prophets in the Old Testament. And my favorite is the Tel Dan stela there at the top.
That's this up here.
Because prior to 1993, they said there was no archaeological evidence that David had ever existed. And the Tel Dan stela actually talks about, it's actually somebody bragging about a battle that they just defeated the armies of the house of David. So we know that David was a historical figure.
The Torah, if you're going to go into biblical history, you can't go without the Torah. That's
Right.
I think is that the first 5 books of
yes, the Pentateuch.
Moses?
Yes,
Yeah.
Books of Moses, and that's over 100 years old.
Oh, Aaron's rod.
Yeah, and that's a rod that was provided to us by a gentleman in California, because it's actually made with almond wood, which tradition says that Aaron's rod was made with almond wood.
And that everybody's heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found in jars like
in jars
this?
just like that. In fact, that Bedouin shepherd that threw his rock into the cave and it broke pottery, that's what he heard, was one of those jars breaking with the rock that he had thrown in, and that led to the discovery of all of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And then again, we have more of the ancient writings, or what they would have looked like anyway when they were found.
Yep, and these are all from, 4Q signifies that they're from the 4th cave that was excavated. So we have the record from Genesis, as well as a book of Enoch. Prior to the Dead Sea Scrolls, they weren't even sure what the original book of Enoch might have looked like, because all we had were more modern versions that we knew had been modified. And then, of course, 4Q41 is the 10 Commandments, virtually intact, was found in.
We have to give a little credit to some folks, because this wasn't all in your and Carol's possession.
Oh, no.
You had to rely on some help from some folks to get
Once people found out that we were going to build this museum, we've had people from all over the country who have felt the drive to contribute things to make them available to more people. Everything from our Bibles, just these artifacts, to stuff you'll see downstairs. People have they've been just amazing. It's been a truly interfaith effort. People from all different backgrounds, religious beliefs, all contributing things to help to make this happen.
Yeah, and since we're in Nauvoo, people would make the jump to think that this is really a project of the Mormon Church.
Right.
But it's you're Mormon yourself, but it's not. It's your and
Absolutely
Carol's project.
Right. It's our project. Yeah, there's been no church money from no official church money from any church that's come into it. It's just been individuals of whatever religious persuasion they were, all feeling that it was important to stand with the historical accuracy of the Bible, and to be leading the way and saying, you know what, this is a true, accurate historical record, and we want to get it all out there. Because all this stuff exists, whether people see it or not. The point is that if you gather it all in one place where people can come and see it, then they can realize, oh, there is evidence for this. Because they don't necessarily hear that story every day.
Well, Robert, back to the ground floor again, and you can't go through the flood without looking back a little bit and seeing what the critters would have looked like through history. And the first thing you see is this monumental Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yes.
Where did this baby come from?
Well, a good friend in St. Louis from Tailor Made Fossils provided that for the museum.
They create those.
They create them there and make them for the movie industry, for museums all over the country and exhibits. Yeah, and he wanted to make sure we had a T-Rex.
Wow, weren't you fortunate that he wanted to make sure you had one? Did he do any of the other work in here for you? Did he produce anything else?
Let's see. A lot of these others that you saw out there on the ramp and in the World Before the Flood, those are all provided by him as well.
And the rest of these were your and Carol's collection, or did you reach out to people?
And again, people just calling and saying, I hear you're opening a museum and I'd like to make something available. Oh, actually, Scott Taylor Made Fossils did that one as well.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, the great sea dragon. So he did that one.
You could spend a couple hours in this room.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and all of this, again, what we want to do is not only present a great collection of artifacts, but to give people a context to how they fit into telling this whole story. Because the complexity of organisms has been from the beginning. It wasn't something that happened over time.
Most people who study anthropology are familiar with Lucy, and you've got her entire skeleton.
We have the entire skeleton for Lucy, and we talk about the differences between Australopithecus afarensis and a human, and what some of the changes that were made as that fossil was prepared to help to make it look more like an upright.
And skulls throughout Homo's history.
Yep, there's Lucy's skull is in there. We have Neanderthal, we have a human, we have a chimpanzee, and we have a Australian Aborigine. And just showing you, it all falls under this heading of who's related to who.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I got to wish you the best of luck because, I mean, you've done all this in under a year.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, you bought the place, you got it zoned, and you've done all this in less than a year, and it's
Yes.
a fantastic project.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And for those of you who want to attend, this museum, the Flood Museum, will be open this summer, Monday through Saturday. There is an admission, but they don't want to keep you from coming if you wish. With another Illinois story in Nauvoo, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Illinois Arts Council Agency, and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.